All right, y'all, so we do have some amazing guests up here, so y'all take it easy on them, but we are going to open this up for some Q&A because I think the best way for y'all to learn, for us to learn, is to talk about it and see what questions y'all have from your daily life. Yes, they look taller than me, it's because my chair is much shorter. Let's just get it out. Thank you. Michelle ordered me a taller chair for next time. I said I just needed a phone book to sit on. But anyway, Brett, fix that in the video, all right? So these are a couple of contractors, some project management. We have three amazing folks that we know personally. We've done work with these guys and gals. And we're going to let them share. First, I want to just kind of get y'all to tell a little bit just who you are, what you do. Honestly, nobody really cares that much, so like 30 seconds, right? Just give us a couple of highlights. I'm just kidding. What people need to know about who you are. I'm going to start with you, Edward.
So,
turn it on. Turn it on. On time. Hey. Okay. Go ahead.
So my name is Edwin. I'm a commercial general contractor. I don't do so much contracting work for investors. I used to. Now I focus primarily on my fix and flips. But I've been doing this for a couple of years, and I've done project management through FEMA and a lot of other companies.
Okay, awesome. David?
Yep, I am David Dreer. I got into real estate back in 2006, way back then, and I was renovating my own houses, selling houses, and also I accumulated 12 rental properties. And then shortly after that, the market crashed, and I crashed with it, and got out of real estate completely, got into corporate America, and jump forward to 2016. I think I was done licking all my wounds from the crash. I got back into real estate. I jumped on with a large hedge fund. The name was Convex, and they were at the time in 2016. They were buying like everything. They were buying, it was like 30 plus houses a month. And then me and a couple they call it like renovation managers, project managers. We were renovating at a very high volume, like 10 to 15 renovations a month. So I did that up until a couple of years ago. I started my own company, River City Investments, and I work with local investors now primarily. I do kind of turnkey investments, and I flip their projects. They buy them, I flip them, kind of hand it back to them, along with my own flips.
Awesome. Nadia?
My name's Nadia. I've been here in South Carolina for a couple years. I moved here from Miami. At that time, I was a project manager for about 8 years in construction and started to learn a lot of different trades from family and friends. I did that for about 4 years in Florida, moved here, got involved with that here, and started my own company. I have 2 crews. What we do mainly is we do a little bit of everything. Started with one company, it evolved into a larger company. My foreman couldn't be here today. He was very excited to meet you all. But some of the work that we do, he wanted us to talk about roofing, framing, drywall, foundation work, pour concrete, masonry, fences. I mean, just about everything except for plumbing. Of course, I have people who do that as well, but they're not on my team.
Okay.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here. And so, for all y'all that are out there, I have a couple questions. We're going to kind of let this conversation go. It is informal. If y'all want, if you have something we're on a topic, you're like, whoa, wait, what was that? Raise your hands, and we will do some Q&A. And if we go long, I'll tell you we don't have time. Whatever it is, don't feel bad. Just raise your hand, and we'll get your questions in. All right. So I am going to start with some softball, but some easy questions, maybe it's easy. But this is one of the things that we hear so often from investors or people that are looking to buy a house to renovate. and like they're kind of half out, right? They're trying to find ways not to do it. The question we get all the time is like, I can't get a permit. What requires a permit? What renovation would require a permit in, let's just give a roundabout, say, Richland County? Now, can you start with that?
Richland is more friendly than a lot of others. You know, I'd say, depending on what city limits the property is in, generally any structural change, if you're moving a wall, if you're putting an addition, just anything that you're going behind or underneath and affecting the structure or adding space, I think it's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah. So when you say behind the sheetrock or under the wall.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So that is one that we hear all the time. People are like, well, do I need a permit for this? Do I need a permit for that? Does that make sense to you? Is that a good synopsis for you guys?
Yeah, mechanicals, roofing, you know, if you're changing an electric panel, something like that. Another thing is like the area. Like if you're in a small town, you know, if you pick up a paintbrush, they're going to want you to have a permit and a business license, you know?
Yep, definitely. Forest acres.
So, yeah, so that would be my next question.
Yeah.
That was Richland County. Tell me about Casey.
Springdale in particular, they drive around and they'll pretty much shut you down, put a stop work order on your door if you're in a truck.
Yeah. So guys, this is a real thing. This is a real question. I'm kind of joking about it a little bit, but it matters where you are and what municipality you're in. Now, that is not a reason not to go buy a house or renovate a house. That is a reason to network and to find people like this who know those areas and that can guide you into what you need for particular places.
Yeah, Lexington County, you can build a house and you almost don't need a permit.
That's right. If you don't ever plan to sell it, you don't ever need a permit.
Right.
But yes, so Casey is one of those, or if you pick up a paintbrush, they're going to be there knocking on your door. Awesome. So let me get into a little bit more. I wanted to start with that one. What do contractors, you all up here, wish that every investor knew about working with contractors? I'm going to start with you.
There's definitely a process to everything, to every project. And a lot of times I think what investors don't realize is contractors are working on multiple projects at a time, right? So patience is key for those investors to have. I think that'd be one of the big things that I'd say.
Yep.
I see investors, you know, they want it done, they want it cheap, and they want it yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? But I think that'd be one of those things.
Yeah. David, can you give us one?
Yeah, the big thing is that something's going to go wrong with the renovation. You know, a lot of investors, they think it should go squeaky clean, but this is one industry where nothing goes squeaky clean.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you get a change order, that's pretty common. So, I guess the caveat is if you're getting a lot of change orders, it might be an issue, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Be prepared for flexibility. Yeah. You have one?
Well, just to piggyback on that would be to make sure you have a buffer. A lot of people come real tight to a budget. You know, if it's an occupied home, we do understand that more, but when you're an investor, those are things that you have to consider when you're putting your numbers together. And, you know, it's different percentages for everybody, but just keep that in mind. You don't know who was negligent, possibly, or, you know, any issues that you may not see or know right away that, I know for me, we want to tell you pretty immediately and, you know, make sure that you kept that in mind all the time.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I hope you guys, if you're taking notes, these are some of the things you're going to want to write down. You want to put this back away, because when you start doing renovations and you start talking to contractors like this or trying to find someone or hire someone, the more you know about working with them, the better off you're going to be. And that's the next, kind of leads into my next question is what, if you guys can start, I'll start with you, Nadia. What makes a good contractor / investor relationship? What helps y'all work well together?
I'd say both ways. Open communication is going to be a biggie. So that was one thing when I moved here I saw was lacking very much with just me learning who did what within the network that I wanted to be. and open communication when, at least for me and probably these guys up here, having a sit-down conversation with you. I go over everything that we're doing in detail, and there's multiple points of the conversation where the customer investor has time to say whatever it is that either they plan to do or things that may have come up in the walkthrough or in the conversation. So just being upfront about things that you're prepared to do, things that might be, something that you want to work on in the near future, or things that you may know about and you just want to address right from the beginning. And then for the contractor side of the communication would be just keeping the customer and the investor one and the same, up to date every step of the way. I know when stuff comes up, we might be, changing out a door, but the casing is rotten and there might be termites, so we want to let you know right away. But I would say communication is going to be the biggest thing, regular, consistent, and clear communication.
Love that. That's awesome. David, do you have one thing?
That was good.
I was gonna say communication.
Communication. All right, write that down. You want to be best friends with your contractor and you want them to come to your property? Communicate. Let them know what's up. Let them know what you're
I'll
doing.
pick that one more thing. Investors, a lot of times, it seems like they got the acquisition part down really well, and they got the back end down really well. They kind of feel like the contractor's kind of like plug and play.
Yeah.
But if you put a contractor on your house and say, hey, do this, and then 30 days later you show up, it's probably going to be a different page. So,
Yeah.
a lot of communication.
Yeah, that's, there's an adage for that. I can't think of how it goes, but the plane leaves New York and if it's 1 inch off, by the time it gets to LA, it's in Alaska or something crazy. Yeah, so if you aren't checking on the deal, checking on your property, you're going to be way off from what that contractor is doing. So, all right, David, I'm going to start with you on this one. Oh, this is a fun one. What is your chief complaint about investors? What do they just don't get? Money.
Let's see. I'll answer that one. Yeah, especially with a lot of my smaller subs that I use.
None of your investors are in here right now. That's fine.
Most guys are like, a lot of contractors are the majority of them are week to week.
Yes.
So, when they come to you and they're ready to get paid Friday, and you don't pay them Friday, they're not going to be happy. So, if the guys are done and they've done a good job, pay them timely. That goes a long way, especially with contractors. The caveat is, if they're, a lot of contractors will do this, if they're not 100% done, they'll still ask you for payment. And what happens if you pay them and they're not done?
Yeah.
They're
Gone.
then you're chasing them. So don't do that.
Got it. Got one?
I would say the same thing. I mean, definitely it would be, we still have to pay for our labor and do everything. And a lot of times, like when I know that I'm working with investors, I'm already pricing for that at a discount because I know they have to. I mean, I'm fixing to flip my own home, like you have to make money or you have to save in certain areas, and I already try to do that.
Yeah.
So sometimes a little bit of that haggling, it happens. I get it. I mean, I do it all the time too.
Yeah.
But I guess money would be the big thing for sure.
Anything else?
No, I mean, I think they covered it. I was just thinking about things that come up along the way. That's one thing, but to have an investor just constantly changing things up on you because maybe they have a new idea, and that's fine once or twice, but there's a lot of planning, and I think it goes back to what I forgot your name, I'm sorry. Edwin. What Edwin said in the beginning is that there's a lot of planning that goes into this, and it's not, the money is very important because it allows us to make everything smooth, and ideally, on time and within budget for you, but part of that is gonna be that we need, a fair amount of time to readjust if and when things do come up.
The other thing I just thought about was, for me, punch lists have been trouble in the past. So what I usually do now is I let the individual, we're done with the work, I let them walk it, give them a day or two, walk it, come up with a list of things, then we do a final walkthrough together, and then we agree on what the punch list items are, we get them done, and that's it. Because I hate, that's a strong word, but I hate coming back to a job after we're already done the punch list, feel like I found this or I found that on top additionally to that original punch list.
Yeah. When it's done, it's done. Absolutely. I can feel you on that. So, guys, this is some great stuff. I know some of this has been kind of conceptual. It's kind of relationship based. And if any of y'all, the folks that don't know me, you'll get to know me that this is why, the reason I'm asking these questions is because relationships matter. We're in this room, we're talking about networking, we're talking about getting to know each other. When you have a relationship with a contractor, general contractor or project manager or whatever it is, that relationship is important because when you are working together, they will have your best interest at heart and you should have theirs, all right? It's not a give. It's got to be a little give and take. So that's why the questions have been relationship-based here in the beginning. Go ahead.
Just for the break, do you guys charge to come out with estimates? You know, like an investor says, hey, I see a property, I want to go. I need the contract to come with an idea how it's going to cost. What's your fee, general fee for coming out with the estimate?
Typically, no.
I don't.
And so let me just say this now because I do talk to a lot of folks that are out there, they're looking at deals, they're wanting to get deals. If they're being gracious right now, but I guarantee you if you call them 10 times, they're going to start asking for a payment. So we usually encourage from the investor side, is you're building goodwill, you're building a relationship with the contractor, call them out, do one free estimate. If you like them in that estimate, like y'all have good rapport, you think you can work together, then on the next one, you should be prepared to pay for their time. And it shouldn't be a $1,000 estimate. It should be, if it takes you an hour to walk it, I don't know, 50, 100 bucks, whatever it is. But be prepared for that because again, you're building a relationship, you're building a business together. So I know they're being gracious in saying that, but eventually they will make you pay if you call them 5 times. And if you want a professional to see your job and to give you an accurate quote, you should be willing to invest that price into it. Can you all agree with that?
I have charged where, an investor is looking at a property to buy. They're not sure, they're having a hard time coming up with a renovation budget. Sometimes we'll charge, because it does take a couple hours to go out there and do a full inspection, we'll charge $150 or something like that.
Yeah. And if you do, and this is just a tip, if you do a home inspection, like you're going to buy a house, like typical, you call a home inspector, it's $350, right? So you've got that, where that home inspector is not going to do any of the work. They're just going to look at stuff and tell you it's wrong. Or you can pay a contractor maybe less than $350, or if that's your budget, you can get them to come and tell you exactly what it's going to be and give you a good quote that's close to your actual reno budget. So that's a tip that many people kind of overlook. They kind of think, oh, I got to get a home inspection, and then they look at the contractor as, well, I can't call them until I own it. Well, you can do them all at the same time, so that's a good tip. And any other question on that? No, that's fine.
We put properties on local. So is your recommendation that we deal with here and after the travel or look for contractors within that area?
So the question is, if you're buying stuff that's not local, would you get a relationship with a contractor here and ask them to travel, or get a relationship in the city where you're buying? I think that depends on you, and that depends on how far that travel is. But if you're going to ask a contractor to drive 2 hours, then you'd have to pay them for that time, would be my suggestion. And but if you're in Sumter, for example, if you're like, that's your spot, that's your home, that's your community, you're investing and everything is there, I would build a relationship with someone there that you can trust and that you will know will do your work there. So you might have to invest some time in yourself going over there, going to meetings like this, get to know contractors in that market. What? Oh, you're going to have to ask them that later.
Most contractors, especially the ones who have a lot of business already, they're already booked like 2 and 3 and 4 months out, so to tell them to travel is sometimes tough.
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
For any of you or all of you, if you were the investors, what are some key questions that you would ask yourselves as the contractor if you were interviewing someone?
If you were, so the question is, if you were an investor and you were interviewing a contractor, what would you ask the contractor in that interview process to see if you're a good fit? Start, David?
Yeah, each contractor is different. So like, for example, one of my HVAC guys that I use quite often, he's brilliant on kind of troubleshooting and installing new units. But anytime I have like a ductwork issue, he hates ductwork. So he won't tell you that. Like if you have a ductwork job, he'll do it, but he's going to charge you a premium. So try to figure out what your contractor is like. So like, if I have a ductwork job, I'm not going to him because he's going to charge more than my guy who likes to do ductwork. So even like a plumber, you might have some plumbers who like to do a full replumb, and then others who hate replumbing. They might like to put in water heaters or whatever. So you can ask questions like, what do you primarily do, or just ask them straight up, what do you like to do?
I know for me, I like to see if it's not a personal referral and I didn't know someone, and I don't just mean like 3 degrees apart. I mean, if I don't know the person personally and that contractor has done work for a friend of mine or someone maybe I've known for a long time, then I'd like to see pictures and to know how long they've been doing it and what they're licensed to do. That normally paints a pretty good picture of what I'm dealing with, what I'm paying for, what I'm expecting.
I think just building that rapport, just the more you talk to them, the better. I've even been to the point where I'm talking to subs, and I'm like, well, are you working on a house right now? Yeah, is it vacant? Well, I can drop by. I've dropped in on jobs when they're working, just kind of check out what they're doing and how it looks. So, I mean, if you're going to use them on your project, you can never go, it's good to go that extra mile, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good tip. And if they say they're not working on a job right now, just move on. They should be busy. They should be on a job. That's a really good tip. Is can you drop by if it's vacant? Great. That's a good tip. So on that note, go ahead.
I hope I asked this right.
Go ahead.
How many? When y'all go to how many quotes should an investor get?
Like the 3-quote rule, basically how many contractors?
Do you know when you're given a quote or whatever estimate, do you know you're competing against somebody else? That's the question.
So the question is, how many quotes should an investor get?
Yeah.
And should the investor tell the contractors that you're getting multiple bids?
Yeah, I guess that's right.
What were you saying?
I expect every investor to get multiple bids. If I've been working with someone a while, they tend to work with me just because we built that relationship. But typically, I know for me, I would get 3 probably. And yes, we do expect that.
Yeah, same. I would go to people that I know and then get those additional quotes. But when I usually go to quote, if I were to quote something, I would already come in there knowing I'm competing, and I give my best price up front. That's why usually when people try to haggle me down, or I'm like, hey, that's the price. That's it. I'm not trying to make more.
Yeah. All right.
I have something else
Go ahead.
actually real quick, because sometimes if you have to know, and I think it ties into the question earlier, you have to know what the contractor does and or specializes in. And you'll have some people that only do, 2 or 3 things, and then they end up subbing out some of it, and they will factor that into their price. So maybe a question, would be, do you have a crew who can take care of all of this? And sometimes I don't mind being asked that question because I can tell you, yes, I do, and we can take care of all of it. Usually that is my answer. But that's something just to consider as you're getting quoted. Are you getting quoted as, is the person a general contractor, and so you're paying up for something that you may not need an actual general contractor for? Because you may, for a lot of these investment properties, you may just want to get quotes from somebody who can do all of the work that may not be a general contractor, but a project manager who's licensed to do all the work without having the GC title.
Good point. Good point. And just on that note, so the GC title, it's gonna bring some money, all right? So if somebody's a general contractor, what that means is there's a layer of profit in there. And sometimes, as investors, we are 100% okay with that, depending on the job size, depending on the complexity of the job, the municipality of the job. You might want that general contractor buffer, and you're okay with that. But then there's also the licensed project managers, people that can get things done that have the license, but there's another step for that GC. So you guys, if you're unfamiliar with that. So we're going to run out of time here in just a little bit, but I wanted to leave you guys with some actionable tips, things that you can take back with you on your deals. So I have 2 more questions, and hopefully we'll get to them. How can investors save, and this is the big one, save money during renovations?
I think there's a multitude of ways to do that. The biggest thing would be material. Like if you were the investor purchasing the material, that's a big key. I mean, you can go to Lowe's or Home Depot, right? Or you can go to Amazon and get just about the same thing, different brand, for much cheaper.
Yeah.
The other thing would be like in the actual project, tile bathrooms, for example. If you want to lay LVP over it, you can lay that depending on the tile. Saving the cabinets, painting cabinets, maybe just swapping out the doors. Roy's Wood Products, I think is who it is. They do custom like shaker doors, and it's cheaper than buying all new cabinetry. What else is there?
Give them a chance. You put a lot out there. I hope y'all took notes on that. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than LVP. Carpet better.
Yeah.
Amazon is a good one. If you're an investor and you have a company or LLC, which you should, you could set up accounts at all the supply houses. So, there's a bunch of them here in Columbia. Oswald, Steer Supply, there's a bunch of them. So you don't have to just strictly go to Lowe's or Home Depot.
Are those places, those supply companies, the same people, better materials, are they at the same or better prices?
The big thing is customer service. So like Oswald, for example, we ordered probably our biggest drywall order. It was like 600 sheets or something. And they would deliver it free of charge like within a day or 2. What do you call them? Or you call like Home Depot or Lowe's.
No
That's not gonna happen.
You can't even get a banner,
The quality, so the materials for the building houses, Steer, Oswald's, you can get the same stuff, but you can also get better stuff, especially the lumber. The lumber is usually going to be better, and the prices are comparable, but like you said, setting up the LLC accounts, you get better pricing.
Typically.
Yeah. You might give and take a little bit, but like you said, I think for us, the customer service, when we go the service, because like Michelle, she's over there like, yeah, Steer. Like she'll just text them or email and just say, I need 6 doors, 6 panel, bam.
Save time by emailing somebody a list of door sizes and windows that I need, rather than spending 3 hours on Lowe's trying to pick out everything. I'm totally.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you have anything for saving money?
You guys pretty much covered it. The only other thing I'd say is just to keep in mind where you're doing these renovations, depending on the neighborhood. You might go in there excited to do more than you need to. So I would just say to be mindful of your neighborhood and what's sold in the last 3 months and where you need to be before you overspend.
Absolutely. That's a great point. That is a great point. Do not go put marble countertops. Yeah, you don't need that. All right, so going on with, that's how you save money. How do we save time? Because we all know time is money. How do investors save time on renovations? Because it kills all good deals, right?
I think taking the time and having a conversation right from the beginning about first the investor has to decide what things they want and not just leave it up to that first conversation that you're sitting with us to work through all of your thoughts and ideas. That is something that we can do, but that time spent is different than just showing up and giving an estimate. That's where the extra charge, may come when you're going over the detail and helping somebody design. But if you have some things in mind on your own and you jotted some things down, then we can kind of take that and fly with it. So I'd say just planning on your side so that once we get it finalized, we can keep on a schedule and get it done within the time that you need to, if not sooner.
You took on scope of work up front, taking the time. Also, I make this mistake too, where you kind of rush the phases. So like, for example, say you're in the rough end phase and you know, your drywall guy calls, he's like, hey man, my crew's ready to go. And you're like, you call your plumber, like, hey, are you done? He's like, yeah, I'm done. So you get the drywall guy in there, and then, you know, a month later when you're going to trim out, you realize you missed a P-trap or you missed something, and then you're tearing stuff back out, so you're going double work. So make sure, whatever phase you're in, you finish that phase before you move to the next one. That's hard to do sometimes.
Yes, especially with antsy investors.
Hurry up.
Take pictures of your walls from the drywall top.
Yes.
You find plumbing lines, electrical
Electrical
lines.
outlets, oh yeah. Yep. Do you have any for saving time?
I think the same thing, detailed scope of work, just agree on everything at the beginning. It helps us being able to schedule all the, especially like the mechanicals, a lot of things go hand in hand, so if you do skip something or something's not clear from the beginning, then it might mess up the other phases of it.
Yeah. Good. Did you have a hand up?
Yeah, I did. It's kind of an odd question, but
Go for it.
with all the help wanted and we're desperate for people to work, please, please, please. Are you experiencing any problems? People just show up and do the work and whining? I mean, see, I'm not very good at asking the question.
So the question is, are you having trouble finding labor for people to come do the work for you guys?
Like, if you need something done by a certain date, you plumber and a drill person, they
So usually in my case, I do have a set crew or two crews that I go to. They work for me full time. And then when it comes to certain things like mechanicals, I just have that relationship. I know, I text them ahead of time, and I usually use the same people. That's just me though.
Yeah. Building the relationship with those folks. Yeah. Any of you have any issues?
I'm similar to Edwin. I've already vetted out those issues. It came up here tonight, but I guess part of finding somebody when you're an investor and maybe popping up at a site that a contractor you're interested in is at, that's kind of what I do for the interview, not really interview, but, you know, the process for hiring. So, you know, maybe calling someone like that, giving someone a chance on replacing a mailbox, just because I'm testing their timeliness, not so much, you know, cutting a piece of wood or we're digging a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would never personally put anybody new like that into any type of project for an investor.
Now things do happen. I have had my guys be late because of something, but usually I already know about it and I've already made that call. But like I said, communication, good thing.
I saw, okay, Brian.
I want to go back to something that was said earlier about what an investor can do and, you know, having to prevent scope creep and time lapse, which you guys stated, you know, having a clear scope of work. You know, one of the things that I look for in a contractor is help with envisioning, because you guys kind of do this stuff as a career. You know, it's not my career, but you know, it's what I do in addition to my career. So sometimes I need help with knowing what can be done. So how do I choose someone that may be better suited in that area? For instance, if I had this open space, you know, I might not know that. Oh, well, look, Brian, you can just put up, you know, some 10-foot drywall and box it out. You can kind of do a drop ceiling, and you know, you got a bathroom. Well, I may be thinking, I got to put this all the way up. So
Yeah.
how would I navigate that?
Question is, I think I'm going to try to summarize it, is your skill set is not necessarily envisioning the finished product. You know what you want, you know the budget you want, and you know what the deal looks like, but how do you find someone that can help you finish it with putting that scope of work together and the design? Is that kind of where you're going?
More so design. I may not know that, well, you know, with 1,600 square feet, you can, over here, we can add a little bathroom right here, because the bathroom we on a certain size.
Yeah, and where's the vanity go, right? That's kind of your question. So what would be a tip for that, for trying to find that contractor that for me, I think the question goes to fits what he's looking for, what he needs in his business.
Yeah, I think it goes back to relationships. Like, you're essentially describing a whole other position. So a lot of times I'll have design ideas, and it takes a lot of time to think those through and kind of come up with design ideas. So, it goes back to relationships. You have a good relationship, then your contractor's more willing to do that. But for them to take the time to really try to help you, it kind of gets into, I don't want to say they want to be compensated for that, but there should be some type of give and take. If you're their investor and they're kind of creating the blueprint for you. But that's a great question. You definitely want them to help, but how to do that properly. So I think it goes back to relationships.
Yeah. One tip for all you guys out there that struggle with that, because I know I'm in the same boat, that's why I married Michelle. So you can either find a wife that knows how to do it, or a spouse, but you can use Upwork or Fiverr, Fiverr.com, like the number 5 and then an extra R at the end. .com. We now send all of our renderings, like our 3D drawings of the property, to them. And Michelle will say, okay, I want a bathroom here and a toilet on this side, or whatever. And they will do the rendering that we can then hand to a contractor. So there's different people that can do that, and it's like 25 bucks. I mean, it's not hard nor expensive at all. And so you can actually find someone that will, if you just give them a blank slate, I have a 1,600 square foot box, and you can say, will you make me a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house? They can do that. So that can be drawn, and then it's something you can hand over.
Now, can you also use an image from like the tax assessor's office?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And we're all, this is relationship building, right? So, if we don't do that, or if that's something that is outside our general, visit, because that's not necessarily what we specialize in or how our brain works, we may know people. I know personally, I know at least 2 people, one of which is in this room right here, who is very good at design.
Yeah.
And so having that conversation up front about the real reason that we're going to see the place, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just, hey, I have a renovation, can you come? Well, let's talk through that a little bit more so that we can maybe, if it's a roof job, I know I like to see that on Google Earth, I like to know the pitch, I want to know the area, I want to know, if I have space for a dumpster, if I'm, like just different things like that I think of even before I'm going to give you an estimate. So if you wanted, and that's a question I ask because I've had that come up so many times, is those ideas. I am not good at that at all whatsoever, but I know people who are. So whether it's Fiverr or somebody that may be in our network, we can definitely recommend. And I may be able to just bring somebody with me and we can check it out together.
Yeah, and everyone's different. I know when I walk through with somebody, I'll just be like, well, I think candle lights would look good here. I think we do have room enough. So everyone is different. I mean, depending on who the contractor is. I know I always give out ideas. I like to talk a lot, but it's just things I see, and I'm like, hey, I think we should do this, and they're usually about it. So.
Yeah. So again, it's, building that relationship with that
Pinterest works.
Yeah, Pinterest. Yeah. All right.
Real quick question, can you clarify because I'm a big Fiverr user too?
Yeah.
But when you use them for plans like that, when you have to get your plans approved in the county, how do you take it next step?
Yes, you can. They can do county. I don't know what it's called, but they can draw it up so that it can be approved by county. The last ones that we've done, we sat at the county office, the city office, with plans that came straight from 2 sets of plans that came straight from Fiverr. And if they want more detailed, so they might say, okay, you're going to do all this work. Now we need the electrical and the plumbing, rough in, whatever that's called, the drawing. You would just send it back to a Fiverr person that can do that. Yeah. But there's also architects. You can find an architect here in town. It's just more expensive. Yeah, it's more expensive.
Is it best for the investor to provide insurance, or is it best for the general contractor to provide insurance?
I will say from an investor standpoint, I always over-insure what we have for liability and those type of things. For your contractors, they should have some sort of certificate of liability. And that would be a question in that interview, like, hey, show me your insurance certificate. And you definitely want to make sure of that. And again, over-insured, because there's been that covered.
Kind of on the same thing, I know everyone said, you know, one of the phrases said progressive should just have patience. Understanding jobs do run a week or two over, when you start running months over, you guys have in your contract, hey, for, you know, once we hit that certain point, because I gotta pay the hard money back, you know, that, hey, we're gonna start taking off, you know, our original agreement. If you start running, you know, just a week or two, you start running months.
So the problem is, these contractors here are gonna do that. They're not gonna let you go 6 months behind. You're talking to the wrong crowd.
We're professionals.
They'll come in and fix
I already
it.
said, well, professional, you professional too, 6 months later.
Yeah,
Yeah, it goes back to kind of scope of work. So whenever you have somebody dragging on, you have to set like clear, hey, this needs to be happened by this date. Is this going to happen? And then at that point, when that date comes, you can, you know, they told you it was going to be this date. So you got to really set clear, like, hey, what's going to be done by Friday? You know, if they say the doors are going to be in by Friday, then if the doors aren't in by Friday, that's an easy conversation. You know?
yeah. And every time you text them or call them and they say, oh, it'll be done next week, oh, one more day. Yeah, about 2 of those and you should be done.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know if I've seen any of that in a contract where if you go beyond, I would have issues deducting from a contract if they were to try to put a lien on your property. I don't know where a judge would sit on that, because you signed for something, I don't know how it would go. So I'd be careful of that. I would just plan for it to go on time. And if you get past that point, you need to let it go quickly. Oh, I got somebody in the back, hard money lender.
Just to comment on that, because I understand what you're trying to do. So what I've done in the past, and you guys can tell me if it's the wrong way or not, but instead of like kind of taking something off the bat, we'll offer bonuses if they finish earlier on time. So that may be a better way to kind of, you know, to ease
Yeah.
into that
Oh, I
without
love that.
insulting anyone.
Love it.
Or, you know, feeling like you're gonna have to go back when you
Oh, yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. All right, yeah, we've gone a little long, but I know everyone is still going. So one more question. We have time for one more question.
Something important is, can you go over the do's and don'ts of paying your contractor?
Who wants to do it? Who wants to step on that landmine there?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned earlier, you know, if it's Friday and the contractor says, hey, I'll be done with the punch in a couple hours, can you go ahead and pay me? Probably don't do that. You know?
So, but like, how do you structure the payments? If they say, you know, they want half up front, is that a good idea, or should be, I mean, how do you,
Well,
just to give people a general idea, everybody's a
Right.
bit different.
yeah, there's a big window job I'm doing now. It's like 25 windows, and half of the job was the window cost. So they paid me 50% up front, and basically I just went to for me to materials.
So they give you the money for materials, and then how much do they give you for labor up front?
On that one, they just did materials. Yep.
So I think that's a good distinction there, and you guys might have more to say on that. But if I am an investor that I'm paying for the materials, there's no way I'm going to do half up front on labor. But I mean, that's just absolutely not going to happen. And these guys are shaking their heads because they know that typically will come out for bad contractors and new investors, and that's how people get taken advantage of. If again, the other way is if the contractor is getting all those materials, well, yeah, he's got to buy all the windows. Of course, we're going to pay that because that's now our product. You know, it's now on our property. So you just want to make sure that that payment goes to the window supplier. And that's really why we normally just write the check straight to the supplier as opposed to going through a contractor and around, unless you know the guy, right? I would give him a check. I know him. That wasn't our job, but I would give him a check.
But to piggyback on this question, what's a fair number if it's labor? Is it
Just labor.
so, you know, 30% up front, 35, 25? What makes
Half and half? You know what I mean?
I've done 30% a lot.
That was my number. I said 30.
The reason I asked the question is because, I mean, I know the answer for most, but being a new investor, it's very easy to have some guys say, oh yeah, that's no problem, I can knock that up for you, but I need half up front. And if you're brand new to investing, some people will make that mistake and be like, oh, I really like that. The interview went great with this dude. I think I'm going to give him 50% up front, and then trying to get him to come back, or him or her come back can turn into a nightmare.
Yeah, that's how you can get in big trouble. I really appreciate that question. For y'all leaving here, not have done this before, do not fall into that trap of half up front when it's all labor. Because it sounds normal. Oh yeah, it's always happened. No, it's not.
Right.
No,
Not.
right.
All right, y'all. We've gone a little bit long, but I know that there's a lot of value here. Can I get a big round of applause for our panel? All right, raise your hands. Who learned something? Who got something new? Good, amazing. Good job, guys. Appreciate it. All right, y'all. So that is Deal Finders Live 2023.